After I get started, welcome. I'm George Fair, Dean of the School of Interdisciplinary Studies and Vice President for Diversity and Community Engagement. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for the Deloitte Conversations on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series. Today's theme is integrating work and well-being. Our speaker is Beth Gerwe, who earned her Master of Science in Organizational Behavior from the University of Texas at Dallas in 1991 and serves as North Texas Marketplace Inclusion Leader for Deloitte. Ms. Gerwe will share insights from Deloitte's recent Human Capital Trends report. At the close of the session, we will hear from a UT Dallas representative who will discuss well-being resources available to students, faculty, and staff. I'm pleased to introduce Beth Gerwe.
Thank you, Dr. Fair. It's wonderful to be back here at UTD, and I always appreciate the opportunity to come and address this group, albeit usually we're in person, so we'll figure it out virtually this year. We're going to do it as we were just discussing in the pre-call in a little bit different way this year. Dr. Fair mentioned that I am a UTD alumni, and he was so kind that he told you the year that I was there. And yes, that was 30 years ago. That's impossible for me to believe. But when I was there 30 years ago, I always joked that there were a couple of buildings and a parking lot. And now it's a world-renowned university. It's grown tremendously. And I'm always very honored to come back as an alumni to be here. I am a managing director at Deloitte, so to give you a little insight on me, and I have a day job, where I work in our global tax and legal organization, and I'm leading the deployment efforts of the digital transformation. And in that role, I get to work with people all over the world in Deloitte. So it's quite exciting. But the other hat that I get to wear, and I'm fortunate to wear, is the North Texas Marketplace Inclusion Leader for Deloitte, for all of Deloitte. And what I do in that role is I get to connect with different executives and leaders throughout our North Texas community who work in the DEI area. And in fact, yesterday I just had a very engaging conversation with some leaders in some of our North Texas companies. So it's always great to hear from people, and again, great to connect here with this group. Now, when Rosie Peterson and I started talking about, well, what should we talk about for this event today, and quite frankly, I'm very happy this event came around, because I think we had it planned. We've postponed it a couple of times due to illness, and then I think we planned it exactly on Snowmageddon week, so it was quite challenging for us to get through the calendar. But when we talked about it, we said, well, what would be an interesting topic? And go ahead, Xavier, to the next slide, and it'll show you the title here. And we talked about this idea of integrating work and well-being and that connection point. And given the strange year that we've all been through over the past year with the pandemic, I would say not only the physical challenges, health problems that's caused, the fact that we all moved quickly to a virtual environment, the social injustice issues that were addressed and we're still addressing, and the mental strain that's caused on us. I think, Rosie, we picked a good topic. So let's dive in. If you could go to the next slide, Xavier, that would be helpful. Go one more. All right, thank you. So what I wanted to start with is to ground this in some research. I'm speaking with the university. I always feel the need to start with some research. And what I chose to do was to highlight our 2020 Human Capital Global, our Global Human Capital Trends Report. Sorry, get the words in the right way. And this report really highlighted the idea of paradox and the paradox of humans and technology and that coexistence. And what does that bring us and cause in the organization? Because often those two things are at odds with one another. And the first connection, or the first paradox I'll highlight, is that one, the fact that with technology, we can individualize absolutely everything. I can design a pair of tennis shoes that meet my exact needs or my color. I can put my name on them. I can do just about anything I want online with technology from an individuality perspective. And how then does that coexist with the human need for belonging? And we still, as humans, want that feeling of belonging, and we want to feel like we're included. So what is that paradox, and what does that bring us? The second one that I'll highlight is this idea of humans wanting to feel that need for security. We want predictability, we want to know that we're secure, yet with technology, we have the ability to continuously reinvent. So there's that tension, I would say, in that paradox that we need to work through. And the third one would be around the need for us as humans wanting to be bold. We always want to make those true bold steps, but with technology, that's always continually, because of all of the changes, there's this continual uncertainty of what's out there. And that always adds for a challenge. So in this survey that we did, and by the way, this survey came out in, I believe it was late January 2020. It was before the pandemic. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through it. And there were over 9,000 people that responded to this survey. So Xavier, if you could go to the next slide. I wanted to talk about three things that out of this survey it said an organization must embrace. Three attributes. One is around this sense of purpose, and that sense that even though there's individuality, the need for individuality, the capability for driving individuality, there is this need for belonging. And how do you ground an organization in a set of values that do not change depending on circumstance? So the circumstances around may change, but you still have that grounding, that sense of purpose. The second one's around potential, and that's encouraging organizations to really look dynamically at what their people are capable of. So you have this need for security and reinvention all wrapped around that, but really around the potential that you have in your organization, which is built around the capability of your employees and your workforce. The third one is around perspective, and that's really challenging how do you challenge organizations to act boldly, yet in the face of uncertainty? And an example of where that came into play is over this last year. There were a lot of organizations that, with the killing of George Floyd as an example, had to decide, do they make a statement? How big of a statement do they make? There was this expectation that they act boldly. And so how do they do that in the face of, well, there's a lot of uncertainty around what's ahead and the reaction around the globe? So if you could go forward, Xavier, that really was the high level kind of premise. And if you get the time, I would encourage you to take a look at this report, because there's several areas, you can see them highlighted here under each of those categories, under the sense of purpose, potential, and perspective. And I would encourage you, and I'll give you the links, to go read the report in its entirety. It's very interesting. If you go forward, Xavier, what I think we'll do today, and what I'd like to do, is center on this area of purpose. And specifically, I'd like to talk about the top finding in the report, which is the designing work for well-being. This idea of integrating work and well-being and bringing those two things together. Now, again, note, this was before the pandemic. Obviously, right after this report came out, this idea of well-being really shot to the top of the charts as work and home and health and safety and well-being all became inseparable topics. And so that's our topic today. So Rosie, as we thought about this, I think we chose wisely. So Xavier, if you could go forward, I want to give you an insight into the well-being findings. So we've started big on the Human Capital Trends report, and now we're focusing on the area for well-being. And 80%, so 80% of the respondents said that well-being was important or very important. And what we found is that in a lot of cases, there's a lot of organizations that have done work around well-being, but they've done it in a way that it's adjacent to the work. It's not integrated with the work. And the idea is really understanding your workforce and talking about how do you bring forward and how do you integrate those two things. Xavier, if you move to the next slide, I'll give you a couple more findings. So as I mentioned, 80% of the respondents said that worker well-being, it was an important or very important topic. Yet only 12% said they were ready to address this issue. So that's a pretty big gap. And as we looked at the details of it, what we looked at was moving. It's not that the adjacent programs aren't necessarily helpful, but how do you begin to bring those into the work? And on the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And if you look at the amount, let's go forward, Xavier. Thank you. And if you look at the respondents and what they're saying is, is it working well? So 79% responding said, we aren't really integrating these two things. So one has to step back and ask themselves, well, if 79% are saying, well, these aren't really integrated into the work, how are we measuring the impact of that? And is it really truly having the impact? So is the investment we're making in these well-being areas, are we really having the optimal impact that we would expect to have? So that's the premise that I wanted to set up with the information from the report. And what I'd like to do now is shift gears a little bit and talk about, and if you can move forward one slide, talk about and share with you what Deloitte has done and what our journey has been, and see if I can bring to life how you integrate well-being and work, and just give you a couple of examples of what we've done. And now we've been on this journey for several years. So it was well before the pandemic. It was for several years we have been on this journey, and we call our efforts empowered well-being. So if you can go forward, Xavier, I'll give you a little bit of a history. So one of the first things that you'll see at the far left, or the circles, is the fact that we don't just think of well-being as being physical. There's the mind, the body, having that sense of purpose. In fact, we just named our Chief Purpose Officer, and the financial aspects. So all of those things go into the idea of well-being. Now, obviously, we've put in learning programs, and those manifest themselves in things like we have a program around empowered well-being that is based on the book The Corporate Athlete. And if you haven't ever read that book, that's an interesting book to read, and it's applying those things that an elite athlete would do for him or herself, as far as good nutrition and rest, exercise, to the workforce. And why, as professionals, why don't we think of ourselves in that same way? And really helping our employees think about that, and our leaders think about their own well-being. I actually took that class. I think it's the first class I've ever taken where they said, bring workout clothes and your tennis shoes, because we're going to put you on a treadmill. You're going to lift some weights. You're going to do some of these things. So if you have an image of people like myself who are probably older and out of shape, learning how to take care of ourselves, and it made a total impact. And talking to me about nutrition and the impact that it has as we go forward. The second thing you'll notice is we have at the bottom there resources and tools, and I'll share some more of that with you in a little bit. Certainly it's been a journey for us, and we've built up this library of resources, tools. And by the way, in 2015, so it'd be 6 years now, we named our first Chief Wellbeing Officer. So this is an executive in our firm, reports to the CEO, works as our Chief Wellbeing Officer. This is not one size fits all, certainly. So we have a lot of resources and tools, knowing that our leaders are going to encounter different kinds of situations. Our employees need different kinds of have different kinds of needs around all these different areas of well-being. And you can see how important it is for your talent organization to be involved, because really understanding your workforce is necessary as you go through here. The next area at the top there is around the area of mental health, and this is mental health at work. And we have definitely taken an approach to say, how do we make sure that it's okay to talk about mental health? It's okay to talk about the challenges, let's say, of the pandemic, or the social and racial challenges that we've faced over the last year, and give people the resources to begin to help themselves through that, to give leaders resources to help identify challenges. Maybe it's helping someone through a grief process. Not necessarily that our leaders become counselors, but that our leaders are at least aware enough that they're able to reach out and identify issues, talk to people to say, here are some resources that might be able to help you. The next one, we've used technology. I think that will become more and more into play. We have a WorkWell app. So I have on my phone a WorkWell app that I can go into and get tips and tricks and advice should I need to. That went into play in about 2019. At the top, the benefits programs, and really looking at what are the programs and are they serving the needs of our practitioners and our people. So in 2016, as an example, we expanded our family leave program to a 16-week paid family leave program. For people to take care of the issues that they need to, for example, around new fathers and our new fathers, not just making it for new mothers, but also new fathers who need to spend time to bond and help with childcare, initial childcare, so they can be part of that process. Or we looked at our workforce and we had people who had aging parents who had certain times that they needed to spend with their aging parents, or maybe it's a spouse with a healthcare issue, and really expanding that to a family leave program to allow our practitioners to truly focus when they have these more unusual or life event situations that they need to focus on. At the bottom there, it says vitals, and that's an interesting one. Another technology one that we put into play. Every couple of weeks, I get an email that gives me a little battery that I click on. Is my battery empty? Is it halfway full, or is it full? How am I feeling? It's a way to not only make me aware of how I'm feeling. Am I feeling burned out? But it tracks that, and just how am I responding to that. It also will tell me, hey Beth, it's been several days since or 3 months since you've taken a day off. Maybe you should think about that. And it just gives me those metrics that help me become aware of why I might be feeling overwhelmed, and maybe I need to take advantage of my PTO and take that time off. Maybe I've done a lot of traveling, and it will tell me that, hey, you've traveled a lot this month, and maybe when we were traveling, and maybe that's why you're feeling a little bit run down. And it's a way that for our leaders there at the top, we can start having those discussions with people on their check-in. And so I hope what you're seeing is that our program and our journey has been both trying to look holistically. It's flexible, it allows for that flexibility, and it certainly involves our leaders. Xavier, if you go to the next slide. I'll talk about some of the micro behaviors that we try to encourage people to take as they're thinking about their day-to-day work. Again, this is about integrating well-being with what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So for example, if you make small changes like practicing gratitude, that's going to make not only the person maybe that you're saying thank you to, or maybe it's simply just sitting at the end of the day saying, what am I grateful for this day? There's research that shows that happiness and gratitude go hand in hand. So it's encouraging people to practice that art of gratitude. It's encouraging our managers to think about flexibility. So as a leader in our organization, when I onboard a new team member to my team, I have that conversation up front. Hey, is there anything I need to know that's important to you from a flexibility perspective, and I find out all kinds of things. I have a young child, I have a school-age children, I need to get them to school at this time of the day. Okay, so I as a manager can now look and say, well, maybe we don't have meetings at those times of the day. Or maybe perfect example, I had a conversation with one of my new team members. It was important to her. She taught jazzercise on Wednesday afternoons at 4:45. It was really important to her that maybe we not have meetings that run up to 5 o'clock on Wednesday. If I can accommodate that, easy enough to accommodate, and we do, so that she feels she has that flexibility to do what she wants. And it's those small things that begin integrating that idea of well-being with work and just make that so much easier for the people who are on our teams. The idea of taking a small energy break. I did this the other day with my team where we ended a call 10 minutes early. And I said, okay, we're going to end a call 10 minutes early, but I don't want anybody to go work on email. I'd like everybody to take a 10-minute walk outside, just stretch, go walk. Please do that before you get on your next call. So again, you can begin to see how we can integrate these things. Xavier, if you go to the next slide. I just very high level wanted to share with you some of the resources that I mentioned. And again, I was so thankful that we had these in place before the pandemic hit, because what we were able to do is, instead of having to create all of this in the background, it was to point to it. And I would encourage any organization, as they've gone through this past year, my guess is they have collected information, put that up there, because this won't be the only time that these will be important for us to point people to and work through. So you can see we keep these refreshed. There are continual podcasts. If you follow our Chief Wellbeing Officer out there, Jen Fisher, she has tons of podcasts and articles that you can find out on the web. And I will point you to the Deloitte.com site at the end of this for well-being. You'll be able to find all that material. And last slide, Xavier, if you'll move to it, I just wanted to give you a couple of more examples, because I know not everybody's in an organization. I know many of you are students, but I think this concept of integrating well-being into your day-to-day is really, really important. So for example, as an individual, and I do this, a block focused time. So yesterday, as an example, I clearly prepared the information previous to this, but I wanted some focused time to really think about my comments to you today. And so I blocked my calendar and said, during this time, I am going to work on this, and I want to be sure that I have my messaging clear. And just focusing that time, allowing yourself not to be distracted, I think is a really important thing to do. And don't be afraid to do those performance check-ins. Talk to your leaders, talk to your instructors about just your well-being, and just do some of those check-ins. If you're on a team, maybe you change things up. Conduct your meeting outdoors. Hey, let's meet outside and do this work on this project. It helps with social distancing. If it's a nice day, you get the benefit of all the good sunshine, and it really does make a difference. Maybe hosting at the very end of that line, you see hosting an activity that's kind of outside of the general grind of the work. That always lifts the spirits, and where you can laugh and enjoy one another's company. It also helps with belonging, by the way, because you're connecting with people in a different way. And then organizationally, there's some interesting research out there. And when I send you the link, you'll be able to see some of the newer articles that are coming out in studies. There's a new one out around time off and how organizations are doing this. Interesting idea is to mandate shutdown time. At Deloitte, we've done recently we've started moving to some what we call collective disconnects, and we did that over between the Christmas and New Year's holiday. And I have to tell you, as a practitioner in the organization, it made a huge difference that everybody else was also disconnected. So we collectively disconnected, which meant my email didn't get flooded while I was gone. So as you go out on vacation, that sometimes happens because everybody else is still working. So your emails build up, right? And you come back to mounds of work. Having this idea of a mandatory shutdown, pretty interesting. And then I'll just highlight one more in the middle of the importance of measuring and helping managers and holding them accountable. So with that, I've been promising, and Xavier, if you'll turn to the next slide, here's the link that I've been mentioning. If you go to Deloitte.com and type in the keyword well-being, you can type that in. You can type in inclusion. There's a lot of different ways to get to it. You can look at our Work Well podcasts that are out there. And I think that you'll find there's some pretty interesting ideas. There's a lot of research out there. It helps you understand what others are doing in this space. And there's a lot of work, I think, yet to come. I think we've learned a lot in this past year. I think we'll continue to learn in this space because I think that our next generation who are joining us are going to continue to push us in this space, and we're going to continually see the ever-evolving needs of our workforce. So with that, I want to say that it's been an honor to give you some of these ideas. I know we're going to have a few question and answers at the end here, but what I thought I would do right now is introduce Siri Wilder, and she is a second-year PhD student at UTD. She researches, your research, Siri, is just fascinating to me, where you research couples' daily lives in the Couples Daily Lives Lab, right? And you investigate the predictors of post-conflict reconciliatory behaviors among committed couples. That's fascinating to me. But I know you have several things to share about what UTD offers in this area. So I'll come back and we'll answer questions. So Siri?
Yes, thank you so much, Beth. I'm going to be presenting some UTD student resources that we have on campus, and most of these resources have gone virtual. So we can turn to the first slide right now, or the next slide. There we go. Okay, so our first resource that I want to highlight is the Student Counseling Center. This is an amazing resource. They have so many options for students who are needing some mental health support. So they have individual counseling, couple counseling, group counseling. All of those are virtual right now. They also have a chat for students who really need to talk right now, and they have sort of different hotlines that you can call based on what you're experiencing, and those are all on the site. They also have some psychiatric care, so you can get medication through there, and they also have workshops that you can go to virtually to kind of meet with other students, go through some guided activities. So we can move to the next slide. There's also the Center for Students in Recovery. So this is for students who are in recovery from drugs, alcohol, eating disorders. They have one-on-one support meetings and also group recovery meetings where you can kind of connect with other students. There's also volunteer opportunities for whoever's interested in that. And the Center for Students in Recovery has this amazing calendar on their website that you can see, and they have all of these meetings going through the day, Monday through Friday. So you can, do those virtually too, morning mindfulness or recovery book club if you're interested in those. Okay, we can move to the next slide. There's a student health center, so this is physical health, and they have a couple different things. So you can go for health appointments each year. They have free dental screenings, so not in-depth dental care, but if you just need a checkup. They also have sexual assault nurse examinations. So if you have, gone through something and you don't want to go to the hospital, you can go to the student health center right on campus to be seen. They also have the after hours nurse line, which is great. So if you weren't able to make the scheduled hours during business hours, you can call and talk to a nurse and kind of get the information that you need through that. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Okay, the Student Wellness Center also has this amazing wealth of resources. So they kind of have to go with, alcohol screening. So if you want to see if maybe you have a problem, they can help you with that. And then they'll send you maybe over to the Students in Recovery. So all of these different organizations are really working with one another to help you. You can also have individual appointments. There's a lot of nutrition help, healthy eating, healthy living, and then they do lots of workshops. So time management, stress management, to kind of help you balance your responsibilities or, handle different life events. Okay, we can move to the next slide. University recreation. This one's an amazing one. And you may think that right now there's not very much happening because you can't go in and go to the swimming lessons or personal training, but they have daily virtual workout videos every single day for different things. They have yoga that you can do, all of these circuit trainings that seem so intimidating, but you can go and do them online, following along with the virtual workout videos. When we get back on campus, they have an amazing wealth of resources that are free. There's swimming lessons, there's all these recreation centers, so you don't just have to go and lift weights. They have racquetball, squash, basketball, all of these things. And then also they have these outdoor excursions where you can go with a group and camp or do different things. And you can also rent camping equipment if you just want to go by yourself and get away for a few days. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Student Success Center. Okay, so this one is more academically focused. They have a wealth of opportunities to help you succeed in your classes, including peer tutoring for subjects that have historically been difficult. They have a writing center where you can get kind of some help on writing essays or anything you need. There's a bunch of workshops about how to study for tests and things like that. Academic success coaching is, you meet once weekly with a peer who can help you to master time management, study habits, etc. And then they also have this great communications lab, and that's where you can go and practice your public speaking skills in case you have, to present in class or something like that. They can help you. Okay, we can move to the next one. Okay, so the Office of Diversity and Community Engagement has a lot of different opportunities. So for example, they have events for veterans, they have the diversity lecture series like you're at, and then they also have all of these employee resource groups. So there's a ton of them. There's employee resource groups for Black faculty and staff, or UTD Dallas women, or young professionals. So you can go onto their site and look at all of their employee resource groups and see if any of them maybe fit you. Okay, we can go to the next one. The Multicultural Center, also an amazing center. So they have so many programs, really so many. They have all of these different workshops and celebrations and leadership experiences. So they're just constantly doing something, and you can go onto their site and look at their calendar and just, see all of these events that they're doing, and these are all virtual right now. So I would encourage you to go and see, what they're doing this month and in April, and kind of schedule those into your calendar because they're really amazing opportunities. Okay, we can keep going. Okay, the Gallerstein Donor Center, another center that has so many events going right now, even virtually. So they have, the same thing as the Multicultural Center. They have a calendar where they have different workshops, support groups, and discussions. For example, the Women in Social Engagement group discussion is coming up. And then also they have the different trainings for like allyship. So if you wanted to go to the LGBTQ plus allyship training, you get a certificate for that. And it just really helps you support your peers. And also if you're a TA or you plan on TAing, it can really help you support your students. Okay, we can keep going. Oh, one slide over. I guess we're staying on this one for a minute. Can we turn to the next slide, which I think is the institutional compliance. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Siri, mine's frozen as well.
Oh no, it's not just me. That's okay, I can keep talking. I'm very good at talking. So the next resource we have is the Institutional Compliance, Equity, and Title IX Center. And this is kind of an opportunity for you to have a reporting system that can help you in case anything has happened. So it's a reporting system for discrimination and misconduct. And there's also resources for survivors of sexual assault, relationship violence, and all of these different things. So they can really help you if you've experienced any of those things. Okay, the next one we have is
we're trying to fix it in the background. I think we had a power issue in the background. So
yeah.
You're doing a great job.
We'll be back. Yeah, but I'll just keep going. It's fine. So there's also the Office of Graduate Education, which I think most graduate students have gone to and seen all their resources. But the Office of Graduate Education has really amazing teaching programs to help you teach, and also professional development resources. They have all these workshops going on, and I think they have one actually coming up next week as well. They also have career services. So if you're not sure, where you're going with your career, they can help you pinpoint that. And they have specific resources for teaching assistants and research assistants. So I would encourage you to really check out the Office of Graduate Education because they are so friendly and so helpful. Okay, we also have the International Student Services Department at UTD, and this is really helpful if you want to know about immigration information. They also have individual student advising for students and resources by visa type, so it's really specific, very helpful. You can go on and look based on what your visa type is. They also have student workshops specifically for international students, so they're really supporting, our international students. So that's another good resource. We also have the student accessibility. So this is really where our accommodation services are. So using the student accessibility site on UTD, you can register for accommodations. You can, get access to adaptive technology. And they also have the special OSA testing center. So if you need special accommodations for testing, they can always get you those accommodations. And we're coming up to our last few. So we have the Comet Cupboard, and this is open even right now. You can go to campus right now. Oh, perfect. We've got our slides back up. Okay, can we go forward one? And another one? And another one? And one more. There we go. Perfect. So the Comet Cupboard is in the basement of the McDermott Library. They have, weekly distributions of food, and you can go twice per week for free and get food if you need it. They're also accepting donations of non-perishable food, so if you want to donate, you can absolutely do that. And all students who are currently enrolled at UT Dallas are eligible to use the Comet Cupboard if they need it. Okay, so we can keep going. One more slide. Okay, so this last one is very helpful for college students, I think in particular. We have the Comet Sense Money Management Center, And they have a bunch of workshops. They have the Smart About Money workshop series where they kind of go over money management with different activities. But they also have one-on-one appointments. So if you're, maybe thinking, I think I could be managing my money better, you can have a one-on-one meeting with a financial coach, and they can go through, different money management techniques. They can go over, applying for a credit card for the first time, tracking your expenses, all of this really helpful stuff. So I think it's a great resource. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. So at this point, we're going to open it up to questions from our featured speaker and myself.
So we do have one question for Beth already. Beth, can you describe what the main issue is for respondents to not feel that well-being is integrated into the workplace?
Yeah, I think it's just an evolution of really understanding, because in that report, what you'll find, the two top things, well-being edged out belonging just barely. And we always go out, we've done this report for over a decade now. And we'll ask top executives, what are your top talent related items that you're focusing on? And the fact that well-being and belonging came up even again before 2020 started, so that the data was collected in late 2019, just tells you that was already on the minds. And so I think it's an evolution, quite frankly, of understanding that we all, as employees, if you will, perform our best when we feel our best. And when we feel that we're connected and that we're contributing to the purpose. There's some very interesting connection points in the piece that talks about belonging that you'll want to read as well. And it talks about moving from the idea of feeling that you can bring your authentic self to work, and we know that's important, the feeling of needing to be connected at work, but this moving to the idea of contributing. And then when you get to that idea of contributing and think about how well-being plays into the ability to contribute at your highest potential when you're feeling your best, that I think that evolution will come. And that's what we're seeing. Hope that answers the question.
So if anybody has any other questions, feel free to comment them in the chat as well. We'll give a couple minutes to allow people to ask questions.
So I just want to comment, Siri, I mean, that is a wealth of resources that are available there on campus. That was really impressive when you look at it. And what I liked about what you presented was it was around all of those different things. It was around that sense of belonging. It was around mental health. It was around financial help, with the comment covered as an example, and the last one around the financial advice. And then obviously the physical aspects with the connection points. So I really think, encourage everybody, leverage those resources. I mean, that's an incredible wealth of resources that are available in the UTD community. Did that surprise you, Siri, when you collected all of those?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the amount of resources and then how they build on each other. So the Wellness Center is connected to the Counseling Center, which is connected to the Multicultural Center. Like, really, all of them, when you look at their websites, they have links to resources to other departments because they're all interconnected, and I love that.
Isn't that fascinating? And I think that comes back to the fact that we as human beings experience the world as a human being. It isn't, well, here's this one aspect of myself and here's this other aspect, and it's, it's happening to me. The whole thing is happening to me. And so I love that interconnectedness that you're already seeing that's on campus.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have an influx of questions. So this
Yeah.
next one's geared again towards Beth again. What happens if your employer doesn't value well-being, at least in their policy? How did Deloitte start the process of integrating well-being into the organization, and does it need to be leader-driven?
Well, first of all, I'll answer the last question first. I think we each have an impact on well-being, not only for our own well-being and to protect our own well-being, but on those around us. So as I mentioned, even the practice of practicing gratitude, we can, as individuals, whether there's a big program or not, and that's why we talk about these micro behaviors. I can thank my team. I can thank my colleagues for what they do and let them know that I truly appreciate it. And that makes people, feel like they're valued. And so I can do that as an individual. I don't have to have a program around me to do that. I think that that as leaders in organizations, we can certainly have a large impact in our organization. When did Deloitte start this journey? Honestly, I mentioned that in 2015, we named a chief well-being officer. We had started this journey decades before, in the sense that we listened to our employees. And when I was early in my consulting career, we had what we called 3-4-5, and that was an unusual thing. And what that meant was, in the past, long ago, people traveled from Sunday, they had to leave, and they would come home late Friday night. Deloitte had moved early on to what we call the 3-4-5, meaning I left my house on Monday and I traveled to my client and I came home on Thursday. So I was out of my home for 3 nights, and I was working on site at my client for 4 days, and I was back on the 5th day. I was still working, but I was back in my hometown. It was less wear and tear. So we've been on this journey for a while. I think each individual can impact it. And if your organization isn't there yet, I think, continue to look around and be an advocate for maybe starting some of that in your organization.
Awesome, thank you. Follow-up question to that. Do you believe that a good relationship between the company's executives and employees leads to overall employee well-being and performance? If so, what can be implemented in big companies such as Deloitte so that executives and employees can have this type of relationship?
Well, I think in Deloitte we do have that kind of relationship. It's certainly, you want that kind of relationship, and part of it is listening to your employees' needs, hearing about their realities and how they're experiencing the world and how that's coming across, and reacting to those and trying to help them, trying to help create that environment, that sense of belonging, that sense of an environment that supports well-being is so important from your leaders. Obviously, leaders are going to have a tremendous impact, and executives are going to have a tremendous impact. So that employee sensing through talent surveys being an example of that. There's many, many ways of doing that. So listening and really being in tune with your employees and what your business needs are, and matching those two things up, I think are really important. That sense of purpose, that's why it's under that purpose category. I think we're finding that the more you as an individual feel you're part of the purpose of your organization, you're contributing to that, the more integrated you want to be, and the more you bring your capabilities forward. Thanks, Ryan.
We still got more for you.
Okay.
Hopefully you don't lose your voice.
No.
So the next one, can you elaborate a little bit more about the experiences from both the leader and employee perspectives of the email silent period? Were there those who could not resist and sent emails anyway? Were there disclaimers at the bottom?
We don't cut off the ability to send emails. So emails, now what we do try to implement is from a firm perspective. We try not to send out a lot of large broadcast emails, or, you would traditionally have a newsletter or something like that. We try to say, okay, don't send them during that or collective disconnect time. Obviously that's controlled, but I could send emails out during that time. Now, to what I'm hearing underlying that question, it's not like we just did this overnight. We began with this holistic approach around well-being and the importance of that in our organization. And little things like years ago, our consulting CEO would start being very transparent about the fact that he was going on vacation with his family and he was going to disconnect. And he felt that that was really important for him as a leader to re-energize himself so he could be the best he could be when he came back and brought new ideas. So those messaging had gone through the organization for many, many years. And as we approached collective disconnects, and these have been going on for a little bit of time, it's now we understand it, that what I don't want to do as a leader is say, well, I'm going to catch up on all my emails and just push this out to my team, because I want them to unplug and refresh. And we get those kind of messages before those times from our most senior leaders, from our CEOs, saying, I hope you find time to unplug and spend time with your family, or spend time enjoying things that you enjoy to do. So there's a lot of messaging around that, but we don't just turn off the system. Now, there are some organizations that may do that. But and so that is in that paper, and it's interesting. If you go read it, you'll see what different organizations are doing around this idea of helping employees get that time off they need to refresh.
Okay, so thank you, Beth. I'm getting a message that we're going to pass it over to Dee Lambert for our giveaway now. And also thank you everyone for your questions.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Now it's time for a little bit of fun. So in just a moment, we are going to spin our wheel of names to choose some very special attendees to win a prize. But before we do that, I just want to extend our appreciation to Ms. Vanessa Fernandez, who graciously donated a few Nordstrom toiletry and makeup bags for our prize packs, as well as for Imprint, who graciously provided some lunch bags and water bottles for our winners. So thank you to our to those who donated. And now let's go ahead and spin the wheel. All right. My eyes aren't that good, so I can't see. Oh, there we go. Josephina Ariano. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If I mispronounced it, my apologies. But congratulations on being our first winner of this event. We will be reaching out to you following this event to get some contact information and figure out how to deliver your prize to you. So congratulations to you. And now let's spin the wheel one more time. All right. I think our next winner is Jimmy Allen. I apologize. Congratulations to you, Jimmy. You are also going to receive a lovely prize pack thanks to our donors. So we'll be in contact with you soon. Thank you for attending today. And let's do this one more time. Let's give a third gift out today, our third and final wheel spin. Let's see who our last lucky winner is going to be. So many names on the list. I'm glad to see so many people. Sumi Srivastava. I hope I pronounced your name correctly as well. So congratulations to you. We're so excited you're here today, and we hope that you enjoy your prize pack. So again, just as a reminder, we'll be getting in touch with each of you following this event to coordinate with you and get your prizes to you. But thank you to everyone again for attending today. We hope you enjoyed everything so far. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Fair to conclude today's event.
Well, thank you everyone for the attending the event today. I want to really thank Beth Gerwe for her remarks, and I think you've given us a lot of insight and a lot of things to think about. I'd also like to thank Rosie Peterson, who was the person that really put this together, along with Jasmine Johnson, and both of them have been worked very hard on this project, and I think it's been a very rewarding work, and it's come out to a rewarding conclusion. Also, Dee Lambert and Siri Wilder, I want to thank you for your participation today. So thank you very much for everybody. I think we've learned a little bit this morning and this afternoon. So thank you again. So please go forward and think about what we've learned, and think about how to take a break and how to de-stress, so to speak, and how to go forward and learn from what we've heard today. So thank you very much. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.